Welcome to the Village of Wheeling regular meeting for Monday, July 1st. It is now called to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. We have two this evening. Our brother firemen from Arizona, 19 of them, his lives were perished the other day. And Esther Novke, one of the pioneers of Chicago Executive Airport, one of the founders with the Priester family, had passed away over the weekend. So we could share a moment of silence. Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Lang?
Here.
Trustee Brady?
Here.
Trustee Heer?
Here.
Trustee Kruger?
Present.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Hein?
Here.
President Argyris?
Here. Approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of June 3rd.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Trustee Brady, second by Trustee Heer. Roll call.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes. Changes to the agenda, Mr. Fondelis?
No, sir.
There are any, there is no proclamation this evening, Madam Clerk.
Ronald McDonald Day, July 1st, 2013. Ronald McDonald began his... Oh, I'm sorry. Robert McDonald began his employment... I am so sorry. Robert McDonald...
Sorry, Bob.
Robert McDonald began his employment as a police officer with the Wheeling Police Department on June 1st, 1973. Through the years, he held assignments in the Patrol Division as an officer and was promoted to Patrol Sergeant in 1992. He also held positions in the Investigation Unit, assigned as a Detective Youth Officer, and later as Investigation Unit Sergeant during his tenure as Sergeant. Robert McDonald also served in the position of Evidence Technician Coordinator. Upon his retirement as a police sergeant, December of 22, Robert McDonald moved to the position of radio operator in the 9/11 Center until his formal retirement on June 28, 2013. Throughout his career, Robert McDonald has dedicated himself to making Wheeling a safer place to live and work. After 40 years of dedicated service with the Wheeling Police Department, Robert McDonald is retiring. Dean Argyris, President of the Village of Wheeling, do hereby proclaim July 1st, 2013, Robert McDonald Day in the Village of Wheeling in recognition and appreciation of his many years of dedicated service to the community and the police department.
Thank you. Give our best to Bob, will you? Thank you. Citizens' concerns and comments.
Members of the general public may address the board with concerns or comments regarding relevant issues. The person submitting a petition, concern, or other comment shall be allotted 5 minutes to present their points. Mr. Puent?
Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you a concerned father, a citizen, and a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I am very worried about the state of our government on every level. The recent and continuous attacks on our Second Amendment rights are a very real problem that need to stop. I would like to ask you to think very long and hard before jumping on the bandwagon to pass any legislation regarding further assaults on these rights, such as the assault weapons ban being considered tonight. I would ask you to vote with your heads based on facts, and the facts do not support the proposed legislation. There is a common misconception being crammed down the throats of the American public, the concept of assault weapon. A weapon cannot be an assault anything. Assault is a verb that requires action. An inanimate object is strictly incapable of this. A weapon does not assault anything. It is a tool used by a person for good or evil. These are also not the same weapons carried by the military, quite contrary to what seems to be the public perception. Fully automatic weapons have been illegal for citizens since the National Firearms Act of 1934. The weapons potentially being banned here may look like the weapons carried by troops in Iraq and Afghanistan, but they are far from it functionally. I hope that your education about these firearms is not coming from what you've seen in Hollywood. I would like to present 2 arguments and a resolution. First and foremost, I'd like to start with the facts. A recent CDC study ordered by the Obama administration, orchestrated by the CDC and carried out by the Institute of Medicine and National Research Council, it was found that individuals involved in violent crimes who defended themselves using techniques other than carrying a gun were more likely to be injured when compared to those who were carrying a concealed firearm. Let's boil that down. Simply put, guns save lives more often than not. The U.S. murder rate is the second thing I'd like to discuss. The United States is third in murders involving firearms throughout the world. I'm sure I agree with all of you when I say that this is a despicable and shameful statistic. However, if you dig a little deeper and you were to take out Chicago, Detroit, Washington, D.C., and New Orleans, the United States would be fourth from the bottom. What do these four cities have in common? The strictest gun control laws in the United States. Chicago's murder rate is 15.65 per 100,000 people, which looks nothing like the overall American rate, which is 4.2 per 100,000 people. The Midwest's overall 4.5%, or Illinois' overall 5.6%. But it does look like the murder rates of failed countries like Rwanda, Sierra Leone, and Zimbabwe. To achieve Chicago's murder rate, African countries usually have to experience a bloody genocidal civil war or decades of tyranny. The bottom line fact here, gun control does not prevent crime or protect lives. It creates unarmed victims, which is what criminals prefer. According to recent reports from the FBI, they indicate that the assault on semi-automatic rifles is misguided. In fact, according to the FBI reports, hammers, clubs, or blunt objects are more often involved in murders than rifles or shotguns. Simply put, you're more likely to be killed by a baseball bat, and no one is trying to ban those. And in fact, the weapons named specifically in this ban account for less than 2% of the homicides nationwide in 2011. These are facts, statistics that should guide your decision. Secondly, I'd like to talk about the potential and probable cost to the village. There are currently thousands of cases being fought in the courts throughout the country to defend each of these Second Amendment rights. Each of these carries a price tag for the city, anywhere from hundreds of thousands to upwards of millions, including a recent $3.6 million lawsuit where the city had to pay for the other lawyers. I resolve that people need to be held accountable for their actions. We cannot blame inanimate objects for the actions of men. We don't have a gun problem in this country. We have a crime problem. If you want to stop the violence, stop the crime. According to a recent study, the average person convicted of a homicide in Detroit had 9.6 average arrests prior to their conviction. Almost 10 times on average, they were arrested prior to committing that murder. I think we should do better stopping them from going out and repeating crimes. Get rid of the ability to make a deal and walk. People commit crimes because they usually only get a slap on the wrist. Make them pay and you'll begin to deter crime. Please consider the facts and the potential cost to our village. Those will be your tax dollars and my tax dollars being spent to defend a lawsuit on senseless legislation that doesn't address an actual issue when it's less than 2% nationwide.
Jeremy?
Thank you for your time and
Thanks.
attention and consideration.
Thank you.
Mr. Kendall?
Hi, I'm Scott Kendall. I'm a 56-year resident of Wheeling. I've owned a business in town for 30 years. I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of statistics that have already been covered anyway. Very well, I might add. First of all, I'd like to point out that this is an attempt to legislate against a problem that doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. There is no history of assault weapons killing people in the area here. And a lot of people, and first of all, let me clarify everything. An assault weapon is technically an M4, AR-15, or AK-47 that's fully automatic, used by troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. They're already illegal. Semi-automatic guns, trying to legislate against it, you're going to make criminals out of already law-abiding citizens. A lot of people own these weapons. They are no harm to anybody. They're no threat to anybody, and it's just craziness. You're going to have a hodgepodge of laws. If the state passes a ban, then that so be it. Then it'll be fought at that level. But I don't think the state's going to pass that ban. There was no traction at the federal level. Even Harry Reid wouldn't bring it up for a vote. It's just a problem that doesn't exist. If you pass this, you're going to have a situation where Buffalo Grove turned it down, Northbrook turned it down. You're going to have people potentially driving through town with a particular weapon in their trunk, you know, meaning nobody any harm, and they could get pulled over and suddenly they're a criminal. So I urge you to vote this down. I strongly oppose it. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott.
Mr. McKenzie?
Good evening. Thanks for allowing me to speak. I want to let you know that no disrespect meant by keeping the hat on. I just want to express a little solidarity with some of my Second Amendment friends behind. The gentleman in the suit pretty much came up with most of the pertinent facts and stats, and I hope you will consider them all. Most of them came from the FBI and agencies investigating on behalf of the United States. My point is, and it will be fairly short, is the template that this ordinance was drawn up on is severely flawed, and apparently nobody read it or proofread it to any degree, since about page 48 they make a reference to weapons being kept by the Village of Lombard, not the Village of Wheeling Police Department. There are a number of other typos and flaws in there that I'll let you find for yourself. I would also point out that the list of so-called assault weapons is just kind of a frivolous list, and things as stupid as having a Mini 14 with a folding stock being illegal when a Mini 14 of exactly the same type, receiver, barrel, and caliber is not illegal if it has a fixed stock. The people that made that list, obviously uninformed and ignorant in the ways of firearms, and it shows all the way through that ordinance as written. If I had my way, I would suggest that anybody who votes in favor of this ordinance accept the burden of finances to defend this. If you are as positive for this as you claim to be, or as somebody claims to be, they wrote the damn law, ordinance, then I think you should put your money where your mouth is and accept the financial responsibility to defend it in court, in the inevitable court case. Chicago paid $1.2 million, plus Oak Park paid another $600,000 or so. And I think Chicago actually paid twice to multiple gun organizations. So again, I ask you to consider this, vote it down. It's just silly on its face, and congratulations, Chief, on your retirement. Thank you.
Mr. Lavelle? Mr. Lavelle?
I don't think he knows it either.
Good evening. My name is Clint Lovell. I'm relatively new to Wheeling. I've been here for 2 years. I've been in the area for 6. I stand before you today as a free citizen and someone who wants to speak out against the proposed assault weapons ban, which, if passed, could very well make me a criminal, an otherwise nice guy who is legally owning firearms as provided by the laws of the state, the country, and the Village of Wheeling. In early December of last year, Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel said we have an illegal guns problem. He didn't say that we have a gun problem. He didn't say that we have an assault weapon problem. He said we have an illegal guns problem. I think we've all been here probably long enough to know the issues surrounding that illegal guns problem that are pertinent to them. They do not involve assault weapons. And I appreciate that the board here has taken this issue up to debate and to consider, but I think it is a frivolous proposal, a frivolous law, and it doesn't address the actual crime that is being committed in the state and in the area. In Chicago, you can count on one hand the number of murders committed with a rifle last year, much less an assault rifle. As the gentleman before me who spoke mentioned, the amount of homicides involving an assault weapon throughout the country, by some counts range from below 0.1% to 2%. It's a very small issue that I do not think the Village of Wheeling has an issue with right now. Times change. I expect that our government will change to address those times. But at this point, I don't feel there is any evidence that would substantiate or support this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stelling?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for letting me speak here. The first speaker pretty much summed up many of the facts, so I'm not going to go over them over and over again. I just reiterate that you very strongly consider them. I would also like to say that if this village is truly concerned about the safety of its citizens, its children, everyone who passes through, that they take the money that would be needlessly wasted litigating this ban and spend it on police officers, equipment, training, things of that nature. I've been a resident here since 2009, and I would hope to continue to see the village making very good decisions tonight by refusing to vote for this measure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Dritshaver?
Hello, my name's Tony. I'm a resident here in Wheeling. I have been competing for the state of Illinois since I was 12 years old. I started shooting an AR-15 at that point. Actually, this year I just earned my Distinguished Rifleman's Badge, which is an award and tradition that dates back to 1884. And I actually hope to help represent Illinois at the National Rifle Matches in July. I hope in the meantime I do not become a criminal by this ordinance. I studied public policy in college, and I do know, and sure you guys are all good students of public policy, social and economic policy is best done at the state, regional, national levels, and perhaps international levels. It would be ineffective, this ban would be ineffective at such a local level. To me, with this inherent effectiveness, because other municipalities aren't passing things like this, to me this is political posturing, because the true issue is education, mental health, and other issues like that that actually are cost intensive and time intensive. And as an elected official, you don't have much of a benefit in addressing that, because before the benefits are seen, you're going to be long out of office. But those are the issues at hand, not assault weapons, which we don't have a problem with. Second, I would also like to say that the police have AR-15s because they don't want to be outgunned by criminals. I don't want to be outgunned by criminals either. And I will let you know that if someone enters my home, I am the first responder, not the police. I am the one who is primarily concerned with the safety of my home. The police, if it is a tactical advantage to me and I have the opportunity to, they will be called and I will want them on scene. But as it stands, I will be the first responder. They won't be. So you put them in the hands of police, but yet then you deprive citizens of the same protective power. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Magnuson?
Hello. One of the first things I did when I heard about this ordinance was I called the chief of police and asked, is there a problem to be solved? Why do we spend money writing laws? And I hate to quote him, I'd rather he speak this, but my understanding is there is no significant problem of anything to be solved in the first place. Again, putting words in some people's mouths, I wish he did himself, this is really something that belongs at the state and federal level. It's not nice to have an ordinance that says a green cell phone is legal in this town and is illegal in the next town. It becomes very confusing for people, and people cannot try to be good citizens. This appears to be a fashion statement. telescoping stocks. You have people that are smaller. So you take a stock and you adjust it so it fits them properly. It is a lot cheaper than spending several $100s for a custom-made stock, which may be $500, $1,000. The pistol grip, what does that have to do with, quote, assault weapon? It's just a mechanism for placing your hand to position it correctly to help steady it. For what you're doing, for my case, I do target practice all the time. The last one, most important one, is no crooks are going to listen to this rule anyways. Of course, the fortunate part is crooks aren't even using these type of firearms you're talking about for criminal purposes. They typically use pistols, and basically the state law is canceling the city law, which banned everybody from having pistols from their practical point of view. The government has corrected that, the courts have. But again, what problem are we solving in this city? The very first speaker actually did the best job of all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Reading?
I think all these young kids said it for me. I was in the service before most of them were born, and they're more eloquent with words than I am. And I carried an M1. Is that an assault weapon? No, that's a defensive weapon. Can I load it? 3 seconds. I carry 20 clips. That's 160 rounds. It doesn't make any difference what they'll shoot or the amount. A gun in the wrong hands is a bad weapon. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank the young kids for all this.
Mr. Bartnick?
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think these folks have summed it up perfectly, and my hat is off to the gentleman. Old-timer here? I won't call him an old-timer. He's here talking, and he helped defend our country and the liberties that we're still fighting to maintain, among them the Second Amendment, which, quite frankly, says that our right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And I've been wondering for years which part of those words do people not understand in arguing about this essential right, which our founding fathers spilled gallons and gallons of their own blood to defend. Now, I'm not going to go over the arguments which were so eloquently presented by these folks here. I just want to point out, we're not dealing with some kind of exotic machine gun or something that belongs only on the battlefield. We're dealing with a semi-automatic weapon that's become the rifle of choice for sportsmen, hunters, target enthusiasts, and yes, people who want to defend their homes and their families. It is an ideal weapon for the defense of your loved ones. It is an ideal weapon for a young lady, for a woman to handle, because it is light, compact, effective, and yes, it is scary because it looks like a military weapon, but it's not a military weapon because it's not going to rip off a whole 30-round clip when I pull the trigger. It's going to fire only as fast as I can pull the trigger. Now, these weapons have become so popular that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms in 2011 estimated that there were about 50 million of these guns sold in a 10-year period between 1991 and 2011. About 20% of these were assault weapon clones of the AR-15, which is used by our military. Now, these weren't the fully automatic type, obviously. These were the semi-automatic rifles that are used for all these purposes. They cannot be modified into a machine gun. If somebody did so, as has already been pointed out, they'd be subject to the full weight of federal and state law banning machine guns. These are totally different from the assault weapons that are used on the battlefield. Now, as to 30-round magazines, you know, I have an AR-15, which I use for target shooting. I'll tell you, I can change out a 30-round clip in 2 to 3 seconds, and I'm not bragging. I'm a rank amateur compared to people I meet at the range. It doesn't matter whether you have a 10-round clip, a 20-round clip, a 50-round clip. You can do whatever is necessary. Except with a 30-round clip, if you're a young lady cowering in the corner defending your kids against a bunch of home invaders, you're not going to be fumbling for another 10-round clip. You want the full impact that that 30-round clip is going to have, and there are documented instances of where that has saved many lives. You don't want some thug to grab you while you're fumbling to put that clip in your gun. Now, as far as the legality of this type of legislation, I have to remind the board that this is already being considered by the Illinois court system in Wilson versus County of Cook. Some of you may be well aware that Cook County some years ago passed an assault gun ban very similar to this one. It's been up at various levels of the court system for the last few years. Last year, the Illinois Supreme Court, in light of the U.S. Supreme Court's rulings in District of Columbia versus Heller and McDonald versus City of Chicago, remanded this to the trial court to consider the Supreme Court's ruling in Heller, which specifically said that the District of Columbia could not outlaw possession of handguns for this specific reason. As the Supreme Court stated, the district's total ban on handgun possession in the home amounts to a prohibition on an entire class of arms that Americans overwhelmingly choose for the lawful purpose of self-defense. Under any of the standards of scrutiny the court has applied to enumerated constitutional rights, this prohibition, in the place where the importance of the lawful defense of family, self, and property is most acute, would fail constitutional muster. This is still kicking around in the Illinois court system. As an attorney since 1978, I prosecuted many cases of gun violence. I think, 20 years in the state's attorney's office, and I've been a defense attorney ever since, the only lives I've ever seen saved by any gun control measures have been perhaps the lives of some hapless burglar or mugger who wasn't killed by his victim while he was perpetrating his crime. Gun control does not work, as cities like Detroit and Chicago and other places have demonstrated, simply because criminals, guess what, do not obey the law. That's why they are criminals. This would only disarm citizens who would otherwise be pursuing their God-given rights and involve us in more senseless and expensive litigation.
5 minutes is up.
Thank you very
so
much.
much for your time.
Gail Atkins.
Hi, my name's Gail Atkins. I'm going to waive my time because I figure everybody's got more to do. It's been spoken so eloquently tonight that I can't add anything to it. Only please, don't make myself, my kids, and my grandkids felons. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mickelson.
Well, the first speaker very eloquently brought the facts to the table, so I won't repeat a lot of the same information. I've been a resident of Wheeling now for just under 17 years. I came up to the Midwest when I took a job out of grad school. And one of the things that concerns me when I look at this legislation is it becomes a case of now one town, things that I have owned for 20 years would potentially become illegal, whereas I look across the street out my window and look at the people that have the freedom that I've just lost. I'm very concerned about that. The patchwork of, Buffalo Grove said no. I believe, let's see which one of the, I think Northbrook also said no. And so I look at the towns that are around me, and they obviously came to a sensible conclusion on this and realized that this is not the way to go. This is not something that should be done one small piece at a time. In terms of all forms of rifles, they're used in a very small minority of the crime in this country. Rifles that would be of a category that people would call an assault weapon are used in an even smaller fraction. And a ban of this type is picking out individuals based on their appearance. It's cosmetic features. Isn't that profiling? Isn't that what they don't want people to do, to judge? You should understand all of the situation rather than just what it looks like. That, to me, seems to be an important thing. That the problem is not what a rifle looks like. It's the problem that there are criminals out there that need to not be out there, and you need to enforce the laws that already exist. And thank you for...
Thank you.
Mr. Heber.
I don't know how I competed against that. Sit down. Thank you, Mr. President and Board of Trustees. I'm going to talk a little bit about the blood drive tonight that's coming up the 10th of this month, which is a week from Wednesday. And, well, I can't say how many people are getting gunshot wounds. I don't know this. But, I mean, there is a considerable amount, but it's usually from the bad guys pulling the trigger. But I believe last time we had something like 48 units of blood that was donated, which is not bad, which is not good. Because just the other day I was reading an article in the paper, this one hospital ran out of one type of blood due to the fact that they goofed up on an operation. And I guess the blood came flowing. So that hospital had to borrow from another hospital to have their supply brought back up. Now, this 48 units that I'm talking about that was donated, I would say, 20, between 18 and 20 were donated by village employees. Now, without these village employees, we would be in sad shape. Michael, I had a laugh at him. I gave him the raspberries when he was in the hall there downstairs, and a few minutes later, he comes running back to donate blood. He says, "You made me feel guilty." Well, if I could possibly make anybody feel guilty, I would definitely do it. I would even get down on my knees. I've been doing this for between me and my wife, we've been doing it for about 25 years now. That's just the village blood drives, which we do other ones. But we've got to get more participation from the residents of the village of Wheeling. We cannot rely on these employees. Like, how many has been laid off? And you miss these. You definitely miss them. Now, I'm just going to give a quick rundown about blood donations. Excuse me. The donation process takes about an hour and is perfectly safe and comfortable. The actual blood donation actually takes about 10 minutes. That's from the time they stick the needle into you until you're out of the chair. The shortages of all blood types happen during the summer and winter holidays. Blood centers often run short of type O and type B blood cells. Despite the generosity of 1/3 of eligible donors, we are still able to make enough donations for the people. But where is the rest of the people? I mean, I know, like myself, I donated for about 29 years and then come across something where I can't donate no more. So I'm SOL. There's like I say, we have 38,000, I believe, in the village of Wheeling. And we have maybe 30 residents that donate. Now, something's drastically wrong. People really don't understand the importance of blood. They really don't. They tried how many years ago to make this artificial blood, and it proved a big flop. I can't say anything else about it. It was a flop. And blood donations, as far as the age limits are concerned, it's 16 years old with a parent's consent, 17 years old without a parent's consent, and no age limit. If you're 101 and the doctor says you can give blood, you can give blood. What we've been having a lot of problems this year was with a lot of cancer patients. Now, we've had 3 or 4 nights that died from cancer. There's 2 of us that's in remission. And cancer patients, they do use a lot of blood, platelets and whole blood. Jerry back here in the back there, she's coming this the 10th of this month. It'll be I think it was 141 units she gave last time. So she's getting close to that 150. That's a lot. If people did half of that, we would be in good shape. Now, if anybody's in...
George, real quick,
just,
give us the dates again. It's July 10th?
The 10th of July.
What time?
From 2 to 7.
And where at?
Village Hall, right here, right downstairs.
Okay.
And if you want to make appointments, you can call Beverly at 1-847-499-9045.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Staff reports, Chief Benson?
Yes, I'd like to let the public know we now have an online portal on our website which will allow citizens to get their crash reports without having to come to the station. You look on the screen in front of you, that's the portal. It's $12 to order it online, and it's through LexisNexis, and people could still come into the department and get crash reports in person for $5. Additionally, I would like to remind the public with the upcoming 4th of July holiday of the inherent dangers of fireworks. On an average, there's about 20,000 people make a trip to the emergency room due to illegal fireworks. The Wheeling Police Department takes it seriously. We will confiscate illegal fireworks, and we will charge accordingly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief. I've asked Mr. Monashine to give a quick briefing. Some of the news this past few days regarding our new real estate tax bills that are coming out with some shocking numbers of increases broken down by all the taxing bodies. And right away, I looked at it, as well as all the board members did here too, where you do a 3 3/4 tax levy that we're going to collect this year for last year. And then last year prior year, we did 0 tax levy. And then we get these astronomical increases regarding the tax rate. So I've asked Mr. Monashine to draft a letter, which I believe is online right now. And maybe you can just give a couple words about it.
Sure, thank you. Well, as the village president pointed out, in the last few days, the Cook County Treasurer's Office has been mailing the 2012 tax year property tax bills, and some people have been surprised to learn that the village's tax rate increased 13.35% compared to the prior year. And I just wanted to point out that whether or not the tax rate goes up or down really has little to do with what the village does with respect to its tax levy. Tax rates generally go up when the equalized assessed value of all property in the community goes down, and that's what's happened in the last 2 years. So in reality, the village might pass a levy that reflects no increase over the prior year and still see its tax rate go up. That's what happened in 2011, which was last year's tax levy for money collected in 2012. The village passed a levy that reflected no increase, and yet our tax rate went up 12.56%. This year, our increase in the levy was 3.75%, and our rate went up 13.35%. So again, it has, whether or not the tax rate goes up or down has more to do with the EAV than anything the village does with its levy, and that's what happened again this year.
And that's dictated by the assessors and the treasurer's office? Or?
The assessor's office determines what the assessed value of all property in Wheeling is, and we get reassessed every 3 years, but there's changes in intervening years in terms of the value of property when new property comes on or people appeal their assessed the assessed value of their homes or businesses. So what happened this year was our EAV dropped considerably, and even though we had a relatively small increase in our levy, the rate shot up 13%.
Better explanation. Another explanation is also online, you said.
Yes.
Your explanation. Okay, thanks. Consent agenda, there isn't anything. Old business? Anything? Trustee Vogel?
Mr. President, I'd like to reconsider the Title Max ordinances from 2 weeks ago due to an update on the parking requirements. If we can get that put on the agenda. a couple of weeks from now when we come back? Or what do we do at this point?
We would have to, the motion to reconsider would have to take place tonight.
Okay.
And it would have to be made relative to each ordinance. If that motion is passed, then there would be a vote on the ordinance taken again, a motion to approve that particular ordinance. Because tonight is the next regular meeting following the time the ordinances were denied. Tonight is the deadline to make the motion to reconsider. So the motion to reconsider has to be made by an individual who was on the prevailing side in that particular motion. Prevailing side of the motions on June 17th was a negative. So Trustee Vogel, I believe you were on that side, is that right?
Correct. I voted against it at that point.
So you can make the motion. One issue I do want to check is if a second has to be by someone on the prevailing side, and I'm looking at the code to do that.
Those are tied votes, Mr. Attorney.
It's still, prevailing side was a rejection of the ordinance. It did not pass, which means it wasn't adopted. Ooh, 1 second.
How about an absent member?
Expedite things, I'll second it, because I was one of the no votes as well, so.
Okay, there's a motion by Trustee Vogel, second by Trustee Here to reconsider the ordinance. Roll call.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger? Yes. Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes.
And we'll take that relative to
I got it
the
here.
variation ordinance.
I have it here. So reconsidering the two ordinances, the first one is docket number 2013-9A, an ordinance granting a variation from Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code to reduce the required amount of parking for 755 West Dundee Road. Entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Harris, second by Trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
What are we voting on, excuse me?
The variation on that 755 West Dundee Road that we declined 2 weeks ago. Granting the variation.
Granting it now?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger? Yes. Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes. Entertain.
We'll need another motion to reconsider.
Got it. Special use right
Yes.
now. Entertain a motion for docket number 2013-9B, an ordinance granting a special use site plan and appearance approval to establish a short-term lending facility located at 755 West Dundee Road.
So moved.
This is, again, to be clear, this is the motion to reconsider that ordinance. Then we'll have to do a second motion. The first motion is a motion to reconsider the special use ordinance. So that's what is before you now.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Vogel, second by Trustee Hare. Roll call.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger? Yes. Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes. And now a motion to approve the said ordinance, docket number 2013-9B, ordinance granting a special use site plan and appearance approval to establish a short-term lending facility located at 755 West Dundee Road. Motion.
So moved.
Trustee Vogel,
Second.
second by Trustee Hare.
Question,
Trustee Brady.
what has changed that nobody knows about that we're voting on that makes it okay
Nothing's
now?
changed.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. Motion to reconsider is a vote on the exact same ordinance that was not adopted or passed at the last regular meeting.
Trustee Vogel said he has new information. Didn't you say you had new information?
Yeah, it
on
was
parking?
based on the square footage that they're going to occupy.
Yeah.
They're occupying less square footage.
Where did you hear that? No, we weren't contacted.
This is a vote on the exact
The
same
exact
ordinance.
square
This is
footage.
not a reduction. If there's going to be a reduction, you're going to have, that particular proposal will have to be taken to the Plan Commission for consideration and sent back up here as a new docket. Motion to reconsider is on the exact same proposal that was before you.
That was not what I was under the impression. I was under the impression they came back and changed the amount of square footage they were going to lease.
You could do another motion to reconsider the variation ordinance that you just reconsidered.
Trustee Director Janik, I understand the petitioner has come in to not ask for a variation, but making an amendment to the special use on the site, on the total square footage. Is that correct?
They have not applied for a change, but they have expressed to me that they can reduce the amount of space that they would use in the unit instead.
Which would be about half.
Which would be approximately half.
And based on the half amount of space that they would use, they wouldn't even need a variation on parking.
That's correct.
And they would have the other half empty.
That's correct.
So I guess we're going to have to come back with new plans.
Well, you've approved the variation already. We're going to have a motion to reconsider the vote tonight on the variation ordinance.
When they go to build this, what are we going to be following?
Pardon me?
I mean, after we send them home tonight with approvals, they just go ahead and build the whole thing then?
It's already built.
The whole thing is already built, but they're going to use half of it?
No. If there wasn't a reconsideration this evening, they were going to come back to the planner and to community development and apply a new application for the special use using only half the site plan that would not require any variation to the parking, which would leave half of their space empty versus building out the entire 4,000 square feet.
But they've already got it built.
They're going to change their proposal.
Well, the building's there, Ken, yeah. The building's there. I mean, they got to do a build-out with drywall and stuff, yeah.
Right. And isn't part of the special use the square footage they're going to be using? But we're not passing this based on anything right now. We're just passing the old one.
You're passing the old one right now.
So they can use the whole space?
That's correct.
With no parking variation?
With the parking variation. And again, it's 16 parking spaces. Our code is 31. Okay? With 4 employees maximum at any given time for a financial institute. And I think that what we talked about in the past was regarding meetings that we had with the Plan Commission last month, here's a perfect example of why things need to be looked at, again, regarding our zoning, regarding our parking regulations and everything else throughout the community. And 31 parking spaces for a 4,000 square foot office, to be honest with you, that's a financial institute, is a bit overkill after we just granted variations for the user next door who built the building there, Advance Auto. That's why it was brought up for reconsideration.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Because there is a change to this proposal, a motion to reconsider really isn't necessary if the change is what the board has in mind. Motion to reconsider must approve the exact same docket.
That's correct.
Because it's not on the agenda tonight.
That's correct.
It can only be voted on by virtue of Robert's rules, which say that at the next regular meeting, the item that failed at the last meeting can be brought back.
As is.
As is.
That's correct.
So if there's a consensus that the as-is isn't going to work, the proper procedure now would be a motion to reconsider the vote taken on the variation ordinance, a motion to approve that again, which would be, I suspect, denied, and this petitioner would have to go back with the changes to community development, and it would be processed again as a changed docket. We have a situation now where the exact variation ordinance that was rejected has now been approved.
The variation part. Now the special use is on the table with a motion.
Can we vote on that if it's not on the agenda that way?
Only if you're voting on the exact same docket that was rejected at the last meeting.
But right now, we got docket number 2013-9B with a motion on the table.
Do you need a second?
There is a second.
There is a second.
So there's roll call on the special use.
Okay. Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
No.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
No.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes. Motion passes. That's it. It's approved.
Okay.
New business.
All items listed for discussion and possible action. 13A has 2 ordinance granting approvals relating to a building addition at 567 North Gate Parkway. 13A1, ordinance granting a variation from Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code to increase the maximum height of a building addition at 567 Northgate Parkway, docket number 2013-10.
I read the second one, too?
And item 13A2, ordinance granting site plan building appearance approval to construct a building addition 567 Northgate Parkway, docket number PC 13-5.
Thank you. Director Janik?
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, there's a proposal before the board. It's a building addition to an existing 200,000 square foot building owned by Wheeland Meadows. This is at 567 Northgate Parkway. The site is approximately 23 acres in size, and the company wants to construct a building addition that extends approximately 73 feet above the ground. Currently, there's a 40-foot requirement, 40-foot height restriction requirement in this zoning district. So the variation is for 33 feet. The addition will be on the east side of the building, away from the roadway, and it's not increasing the area of the building. It's just being built where the building is. The height is necessary for a specialized machine that they want to bring onto the site. They currently have I believe 2 other machines similar to this, and when they built the building, they actually built holes in the ground inside the building. Since the building's already built, this is not a preferred method of installing another machine. That's the requirement or the request. That's the reason for the request for the building addition and the variation.
Thank you. Is petitioner here? Why don't you come on up front real quick? Questions from the board?
Question.
Trustee Lang?
So, I've been in their building and I've seen the hole that they were trying to avoid. That's a safety issue, isn't it? The hole itself, isn't there? Is that why you don't want to take that route again, because it's a safety issue?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Markus Schüler. There's a number of reasons. Safety is one of them. It's certainly easier to build up than into the basement. We do have a number of other issues to deal with, most notably cost. It is much more costly in an existing facility to go down, more disruptive for the rest of production, and going through the roof would certainly give us competing for money within our own company, and to make it worthwhile to expand our business here, more lucrative and more promising to get it passed and approved. We do also have issues with groundwater that cause problems during the construction if we would again go down rather than up. But safety and cost and the whole viability of the project itself are sort of at stake in this.
Okay. The trade-off is then aesthetics. How much of this will we see from Northgate, of this tower?
Charles Reister, Gruner Reister Architects. You have to step back about 200 feet from the road to actually see the light monitor.
200 feet west?
200 feet west to see the light monitor. This will be behind that. So, and the forest preserve is to the east. So really shouldn't have anyone, you'd be a far distance away to see the addition.
Okay. So moved.
Second. Question, Trustee Brady?
Has the FAA been notified?
We're working with the FAA right now and getting those permits secured.
But you think that's going to go through?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Motion by Trustee Lang, second by Trustee Heer. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes. 13A2, ordinance granting site plan building appearance approval to construct a building addition at 567 Northgate Parkway, docket PC 13-5.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Brady.
Second.
Second by Trustee Krueger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes. Thank you. Good luck, fellas.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
I'm sorry.
Item 13B, ordinance amending Chapter 4.32 of the Village of Wheeling's Municipal Code, alcoholic liquor dealers, specifically Section 4.32.085.
Thank you. Manager Svandos.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before you this evening is following protocol. Anytime we approve a new business requiring a liquor license, we need to add that to our books. This is an ordinance which would allow the addition of one new liquor license to our code.
Questions? Motion?
So move.
Motion by trustee Hines, second by trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
No.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
No.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes. That was about to happen.
Item 13C, ordinance amending Chapter 8.02 definitions, Section 8.02-20, specific definitions of the Village of Wheeling Code, and Chapter 8.18, offenses involving weapons, to create a new Section 8.18-.060, assault weapons, regarding regulation of assault weapons in the Village of Wheeling.
Village Attorney Ferrillo.
Thank you, President Argyris. As we discussed at our last meeting, House Bill 183 was passed by the Illinois General Assembly on May 31st, 2013, in response to a Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals decision which indicated that the state of Illinois, no later than June 9th, was to get a concealed carry law on its books that allowed for concealed carry within the state. The June 9th date has been extended to July 9th. The House bill is on the governor's desk in its current form. The House bill preempts both home rule and non-home rule municipalities from regulating concealed licensed handguns within its boundaries. Those concealed licensed handguns would include assault-type handguns. What the bill did, and it put a lot of municipalities like Wheeling in a position where it had to at least consider things quickly, not necessarily pass things quickly, but consider things quickly. The law says that no later than 10 days after the time the governor executes the concealed carry law, any municipality may pass a ban on assault weapons if it chooses to do so. If it does not do so within that 10-day period, we think that's going to go until about July 19th. If the governor takes all of his time, the municipality would be preempted from doing so. We talked about this at our last meeting. Before you is an ordinance that regulates assault weapons, non-handgun type assault weapons within the Village of Wheeling. The ordinance is based on an ordinance that Oak Park passed following the McDonald case. This ordinance has not been challenged since the McDonald case. We heard about Oak Park incurring expense, and it did. This is what resulted from that case. This ordinance would prohibit the ownership or carrying of certain assault weapons within the Village of Wheeling, and there's a definition of assault weapons. In summary, there's a detailed list. The definition includes semi-automatic rifles, semi-automatic shotguns, machine guns, and other various items included in the list. There's a penalty provision in the ordinance that provides that a violator could incur up to $750 fine and a 6-month jail time, again, all based on an ordinance that is out there. This particular ordinance is being considered by most municipalities in this form that you see here tonight, based on the state of Illinois, the law that has been put out there. Now, if this ordinance is adopted by the Village of Wheeling, citizens in Wheeling cannot own or carry assault weapons as defined within the village boundaries. If this ordinance is not adopted by the board and it's rejected, status quo would remain. And what that would mean is that licensed assault weapons, as they're defined in this ordinance, would continue to be allowed to be owned by residents within the Village of Wheeling. I think that's a pretty good summary of what's before you, and I can answer any questions and go from there.
Entertain a motion?
So move.
Motion by trustee Brady.
Second.
Second by trustee Heer. Roll call.
Trustee Lang?
Present.
Trustee Brady?
No.
Trustee Heer?
No.
Trustee Kruger?
No.
Trustee Vogel?
No.
Trustee Hein?
No.
President Argyris?
No. Motion fails.
No, we want all you guys to give blood.
2 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
2 to 7, Village Hall.
I recognize you.
It's not considered in this ordinance. There are other ordinances that define assault handguns to be included as assault weapons. It's really a non-issue. I'm not sure why you're even asking it. It's a non-issue for purposes of concealed carry.
Purposes of just plain knowledge.
I guess there's no, to answer your question, there's an assault handgun could be as a community defines it. This community decided not to define it. I've seen it defined in other ordinances to be semi-automatic handguns.
We're done.
No.
Oh, the blood drive? Yeah.
You put a banner out on the lawn, blood drive coming up, such and such.
We do. We do. We actually do.
Okay.
Yeah. And look at the website. It is at Village Hall here from 2 to 7. And he's not kidding. We need help. So residents, please come out. Tell your friends. Thanks. You guys want to clear the room right now? We got some other business. Take a second here. I mean, you're welcome to stay, but I figure you got better things to do.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Especially standing outside.
The yellow switch. You can get to look at the bill.
Buddy's up north.
Illinois, hard dog.
They can come and drive through town now.
Good characters. My whole family.
This evening on item number 13D is discussion regarding street repair initiative presented by Community Development Director Mark Janik. Mark?
Before Director Janik begins with a more technical presentation, I'd just like to introduce the topic. Staff is presenting this evening a new idea to deal with the deterioration of the streets throughout town. This is a policy decision, as what's up for consideration is a shift from what we have done in the past dealing with repairs to our streets. In the past, we have either done complete reconstructs or simply overlays depending on the conditions of the road. This idea, as Director Janik will explain in more detail, is a partial reconstruct that would allow us to use the same amount of money that we have been allocating for full reconstruction to cover far more streets within our village boundaries. What we would be doing is, instead of taking the entire street, is creating 2 strips along the curb line, which is where we see most of the deterioration, and partially reconstructing that. The idea is we're buying time for approximately 10 to 15 years before we would have to come in and do a full reconstruct. Because we are not doing the entire width of the street, we're saving significant amounts of money, which will allow us to cover far more streets throughout the community than if we stayed on the schedule of doing full reconstructs. Staff feels that this is an excellent idea to catch up from the last few years of having to divert monies out of the CIP back into the general fund. This would allow us not only to catch up, but even increase the rate of repair that we were on prior to the economic downturn. So what we're asking the board specifically this evening is, would you like staff to pursue this new program? If so, we will look at all of the operational requirements to get going this year. And of course, we will have a prioritized balance of streets between all sections of town, east and west, to make sure that our entire community is being positively impacted by the new idea. And I know I just touched the surface of it. Director Janik will talk specifically about some of the engineering and the overall concept of what we're presenting to you.
Thank you for that introduction. Tonight, I'd like to explain this paving situation. What we're doing is we have the CIP program, which we've been doing for a number of years, and that program, if you look in the CIP the booklet, we have listed streets that need full width improvements. Some of them are full width reconstruction, which means you take up the base gravel and the pavement, and some of them are partial reconstruction but full width, which we take up the entire asphalt area, and then we repair the base as needed. This program is beyond that typical CIP. This year we have extra money left over because we were provided money through other parts of the budget, and instead of doing a full width reconstruction or a full width partial reconstruction, what we intend on doing is paving 6 feet or 8 feet wide from the curb on either one or two sides of a street. We won't be taking up the base, the gravel. We'll be just taking up the asphalt. And as you can see the situation we have on numerous streets in the village. We have maybe almost 50,000 linear feet of street that have the problem that I'm showing you right now. It's not the full width street that has the problem. It's the edges of the roadway. And that's because of, mostly because of trucks and cars parking there for long periods of time, or even for short periods of time, and the base and the asphalt crack, water gets in and starts deteriorating that asphalt. By doing what we're doing, we will repair those edges, which is really important because the edges are where if the water sits on the edges and gets underneath the concrete, underneath the asphalt, the deterioration happens very quickly. And then full reconstruction would be necessary. So I'm going to go through a couple of photographs here. We provide you a lot of information. A lot of it's pretty detailed. But any questions, ask me. Tony Stavros, Public Works Director, is here as well to help. The first photograph shows a really typical situation. You can see the edge of the roadway here is what we call alligatored. Water has gotten in here and it's starting to crack the asphalt. As you can see, the middle part of the road, it looks relatively good, and it is. It's this edge, which is the problem. And the longer we wait, the more water gets in here, and as you can see, it's almost impossible to crack fill this, to repair this, because there's so many cracks. Same thing here. Now, as you can notice, chunks of asphalt have already started to come up on this roadway, and when the water gets in here, it's just a matter of time. The freeze thaw, a couple of winters, and you can see that this needs to be done. The water just does not get into the gutter. You can see in this particular photograph, you can see that the paving is slightly lower than the curb, but a lot of times you'll see the paving above the curve. It's almost a swale of asphalt, and the water just runs down that swale, and it might run to a catch basin, but on the way, the water seeps into the pavement. This truck is moving right now, but it was parked here, and this is industrial street, obviously, but trucks do park on these roads, and that weight itself, when the roads was built, they didn't put extra gravel or extra base here, and the trucks waiting, the trucks standing will start crack that asphalt and start pressuring it. I'm going to show you some photographs next that are in Arlington Heights. They have a street program, exactly what we want to do. This shows the machine that they use. This is the sweeping machine, the red, and then this is the paving machine that comes right after it. They do 6 or 8 foot wide lengths or widths along streets, and they'll run it for an entire block or they'll run it for 5 blocks. And that's exactly what they do. They have the same problem. Virtually every city in the northern climate has this exact same problem. Here's the paving machine. You can see where he's about to pave. They grind it. Now in this case, you can see it's only 2 inches to go. They've already laid down the binder course of 1.5 inches or 2 inches. So they're getting ready for the final lift for this roadway. But you can see this distance here is 6.5 feet. You see there's the curb, and they don't repair the base. They come in, take up the asphalt, and then they lay down the 4.5 inches of asphalt. This photograph shows the paving. This is approximately 3 years old. One concern that we had was you put the paving down, the new paving, and you have the old asphalt next to it. You know, how's it going to look? Well, at first it's going to look, admittedly, black and white. You're going to have the light colored asphalt and the really dark edges. But as you can see, in 3 years' time, you can see the difference in the color. It starts blending in very well. Now, in this particular street, they did one side. The other side wasn't that bad, so they just did one side. Most of the streets that we're going to be talking about or that we're looking at are just like this one here that I show, both sides of the street. And as you can see, that there's nothing in the middle. They're leaving the middle. There is some cracking in the middle, but generally speaking, a 6 foot, 6.5 foot paved width, grind and overlay, partial reconstruction we call it, is the most you need to do on virtually all the streets that we have problems with. Here's a street that has a new paved surface on the right-hand side, and the opposite side of the street is about 3 years old. So in this particular case, for whatever reason, they did one side of the street 3 years ago, and they came back and did the other side of the street this year. This is a street that they haven't done the final lift on, but this is both sides of the street. Now there's a little cracking on the side here, and sometimes you have to come back and do a little bit more width, but generally speaking, they do the same width on all the residential streets. The street has been paved. This is probably 2 years old, maybe a year old. This is a 3-year-old street. Maybe it's 4 years old. This edge here is a concern for us. We provide to you an opinion from one of our consulting engineers who agree with what we want to do. One thing that Arlington Heights obviously doesn't do is come back and do a crack fill on this seam right here. Here's a better picture of it. This is the seam itself. We need to come back and crack fill this, or you really should, because if you don't, the water's going to come right in this edge or this seam sooner or later and do the same thing to your asphalt. We talk to them, and they just don't have a program or the money to come back and do it. We do crack filling as a matter of course every year. We would make sure that we came back and did an edge, a bead right along this edge on the streets to make sure that didn't happen. We have a total of about 75 miles of street in the village. This program is, we would hopefully piggyback this program onto the same company that would do our typical CIP street reconstruction every year. With the amount of money we have this year, which is excess money from the CIP, we're hoping to do 17,000 linear feet of roadway. Now, if you look at the numbers we have in here, a lot of this is done by linear foot. A lot of it, if we're doing both sides of the street, you have to divide that in half. So we have probably maybe 50,000 linear feet of roadway, just like this, that need to be done. And then more comes on every year as the deterioration happens. But if we do a 6-foot wide strip on both sides, 4 inches deep of asphalt, and sometimes these streets are 5 inches, sometimes they're 4. We could hopefully get down about 17,000 linear feet of roadway, which would go a long way. If we do that for, say, 4 or 5 years, we'll go a long way to repairing a lot of our residential streets that have this issue. And it's not just residential, it's commercial, it's industrial as well. We did this program, we didn't do this exact program, but we did do Wheeling Road We didn't do a full reconstruction on Wheeling Road. We did a 4-inch removal and replacement, and that was about 5 years ago. And you can see how well that's held up to industrial commercial traffic. This will be on residential streets, and as John mentioned, we're hoping this is going to last at least 10 years. So we want to come back to these streets and think about reconstruction. But it will avoid more reconstruction in the future by doing this.
Sure, go ahead.
Before we open it up for questions, and Mark, if you need to, please elaborate further, but in addition to dealing with the obvious problems with the streets, the alligatoring and such, we need to recall that these streets are perhaps the biggest conductor for water. They move the water as water flows overland into our storm sewers. And when there are problems, as you see illustrated in these pictures, water's not able to get to, in some cases, get to the storm sewer. So this not only deals with the aesthetic and safety issues related specifically to streets themselves, it makes the curb lines as effective as they were designed to be by reinstating the proper flows to and from our storm sewer system.
That's correct. We have a lot of streets that are really have very little gradient on them. And when any of the roadway starts to swell like this or starts to crack, the water will just sit. And it's incredibly important to get that water from the pavement into that concrete and then down the concrete to the basins, or to the catch basins. That's exactly right.
Trustee here.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Janik, for coming up with a program like this. I know it's just a temporary fix to a long-term problem. A couple questions. When we looked at the curb on here, when you go out there, not specifically with that one picture, but what about the concrete work? You see the catch basin, or
Yes.
that one there, you see the curbs are broken. Are they going to fix those as they go along, or are we just going to allow that to continue?
We have, in the numbers I provided you on the spreadsheet, we held out 20% of the money that we have to fix concrete, or to fix curbing, concrete, anything else that might go along the way. We might have to raise, lower the catch basins or fix the concrete on there. So we did leave out 20% to do things just like that. So we will be fixing. We won't be doing long lengths of curb, but if there's a problem to get to the basin, we will fix that too.
Okay, and you've answered most of the questions that I've had. I do like the idea that you do the crack filling too, to eliminate. But I would like to just, if we do this, do it for 1 year, kind of monitor it, and then come back again and see, or maybe a few years to come back, to see if this is actually working, instead of going 10 years out on something, say this is the way we're going to repair our streets in the community. I think, let's try it. I think it's worth experimenting with to see how we like it. Thank you.
Trustee Kruger?
Hi, Mark. I have a couple questions. Is this only for streets that have curbs? And I'm sure you know why I'm asking that. I live on a street with no curbs that hasn't been touched for at least 10 years that I know of with any kind of reconstruction.
It would work on streets with or without curbing.
It would. And if there are potholes in the middle of the street that has no curbs, would that be repaired along the way while they were doing?
Yeah, if there's some, it's not like most of these streets don't have any problems in the middle, but if we are doing a street and there is an issue in the middle, or if there's a bad spot, we will fix that as well.
Would this be standard practice then for the entire village for street repairs? Would there be any roads that would be eligible for the old school?
Yes, no. Like I said, this program is above and beyond the typical CIP reconstruction full width. Like this year, we're doing Shadow Bend and we're doing part of Dunhurst. We're doing all the curbing. For instance, Dunhurst, we're doing all the curbing and we're doing full width. Okay, this program is outside of that. This is just money we have left over from that, and we would set aside every year maybe $700,000, $750,000. I would say $2 million to do this. The rest of the money would go toward full width reconstruction, with or without curbing.
Got it.
Does
Thank
that make
you.
sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
May I?
Go ahead.
Just before anyone gets any ideas, the definition of leftover money is that the street projects came in, the bid came in at a number that is lower than the amount budgeted.
Budgeted for.
So instead of rolling that money back, we're simply reinvesting it back in. So leftover money is not found money or anything.
Once you go to the extra step, where'd the money come from?
Well, this is all CIP money. This is not MFT money.
It's not MFT.
Correct.
I thought some of it was.
No, just MFT money is, that's going to be going toward like full width construction.
Right.
Okay. Trustee Brady?
Actually, I think it's a great idea. You know, we've fallen way behind in our street maintenance, and I think by doing this, we'll take the streets that are kind of in the middle and extend them long enough that they can stay together until we can get to them with a full reconstruction. It's a great way to get caught up. Otherwise, by the time, if we waited till we had enough money to do full construction every year, we'd be driving on gravel roads by the end of the term, believe me.
Right.
Of course.
Thank you. Trustee Lang?
Well, I understand clearly why you're doing it. The aesthetics of it isn't the greatest. I mean, it doesn't, you know, even over a couple of years, I mean, streets in our neighborhood had been worked on with sewers for 3-4 years ago, and you can clearly see where the lines are. But I understand. It's a good alternative, and I'd definitely like to try it out.
Just comment on that. One difference between what you see on some of the streets in your neighborhood is that there was some sewer work and water main stuff done, and the patching wasn't done in a completely uniform fashion for long lengths. You know, it was maybe 3 feet wide or 4 feet wide, and it was not patchwork, but it didn't look as uniform as this is going to look.
Right.
I think you're going to change your mind a little bit when you see, just the entire block is 6 foot on both sides. You know, it's going to look more uniform, and when it does blend, it's going to look a little better.
And really, it's purely the aesthetics of it. It's a street, and it needs to function more than look good. So I'm in full agreement that it should function.
Trustee Vogel?
I agree. I think, like Trustee Brady said, it will take care of us until we can go the entire route down the road.
Trustee Hein?
We're going to be outsourcing this, of course, right? We're not going to be doing this in-house.
Right now, we're preparing a request for proposal, assuming that the board's on board with this, and it would be done by an outside,
I believe
we don't have personnel right now.
Alton Heights uses the same system, and they, I believe, do it in-house with their own.
They rent, I don't believe they own the equipment, but they do lease the equipment on a yearly basis. I'm not sure if all their streets are done just by them, but at least most of them are. That's correct.
Perhaps this would be a good time, too, in your presentation, you said that the area by the curb, 6 foot either way, this is where we have our problems because of the water and so on and so forth. Maybe this would be a good time, too, to start evaluating where we can start putting in our active transportation system and putting down some bike lanes and stuff, too. So maybe I have to look at that. But I'm all for something like this. This is a good cost savings for the village. It gives us some time, and I think it'll work out fine.
Okay. I think it's a great program. I think a lot of the problems with the alligators and stuff, not just water, I think a lot of it is probably the trucks of waste management. I mean, I've heard that to be the problem, too, where you're seeing a lot of potholes and a lot of deterioration along the curb lines, because these trucks are coming through the neighborhoods there, and the weight related to it. You know, I heard that from a couple people from Arlington Heights as well. So, yeah, I think there's a great program to do something and get some of these streets straightened out. There was a lot of sewer and water main projects done years ago that the streets, like you said, was 2.5, 3 feet patchwork. It looks terrible. And if we can go in there and do something that's more uniform, and I agree with Ray, it's not aesthetically the best thing, but you know what? It's a good fix to the hunks of asphalt or concrete that's broken or standing water because it's not pitched properly to the storm. It's a good way to start this project. So yeah, I'm all for it. I think it's great. Sooner the better. This year, right?
We're gonna try. I mean, yes, I expect to have
work start this year.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mark. Official communication, start with Trustee Lang today.
Nothing to add today, thanks.
Okay, how about Trustee Brady?
Well, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Kruger?
None for me, thanks.
Trustee Hein?
I just want to wish everybody a safe and happy holiday coming up, July 4th, and I'm sure the President's going to tell us something about that before we go.
Okay, I'm sure you're right. Trustee Vogel?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Hare?
I've got nothing, but thank you for asking.
Thank you for coming. Clerk Simpson?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay. Myself, I got a couple of things real quick. I'm going to ask Manager Svandilis to give us an update on the July 3rd for the July 4th little fireworks thing that we're doing here in town.
Sure. I'll repeat some of the information from last week, and we have a little bit of new information. So a reminder that we do have a 4th of July event happening on July 3rd at the property just west of Village Hall, the old Wix site. We have bands beginning at 6 p.m. Fireworks will go off at approximately 9:15. It will be a very good night. We have 2 bands playing. It's a great opportunity for residents to come out, bring their family, bring a picnic dinner, a lawn chair, and enjoy the community and enjoy some good entertainment and hopefully a great fireworks display. The addition is, I'm happy to say that AMVETS has also donated for the festivities. You may see the banner out front. They came in after the banner was put up, so they weren't listed on there, but another local agency has decided to contribute to the event, and we're very happy to have them as part of the day.
And just to piggyback on a little bit, we're close to $32,000 in
That's correct.
donations.
That's correct.
So this was really not a tax burden to the taxpayers. I mean, our community came up and they wanted to donate and be part of this, and I think that's wonderful, and I applaud all of them. I know we all feel the same way. Regarding the layout, John, just a little bit, we're encouraging people to park over at the Metra.
Sure, parking is available at all the existing parking lots because we have the proximity of the Metra parking lot so close to the event this year. That makes for a perfect opportunity to utilize that lot. It's of significant size, so it'll hold a number of cars, but our municipal lot is open. This lot behind the police station is open, and any of the other Park District lots are available for parking too. So we anticipate being able to accommodate many cars without having to worry about parking on grass or along curb lines anywhere.
And another thing, the crowd seating area is the front third part of the Wicks property from the going from Dundee Road, the sidewalk, in about a third of the way. You'll see snow fencing there and huge snow fencing area to the south of that, which is the fireworks launch site, which is a safety area. So anything from that point going north is our seating area there, and I think it's going to be a nice event. And
what's the schedule?
Schedule?
There's midnight is our headlining band. That is Haley's parents, Harry and Patty Reinhardt, and there is an opening band. So the opening band will begin at 6, play to approximately 6:45. A changeover to midnight starting around 7:15. They will do 2 sets with a break in between, and they'll play all the way up until the fireworks begin.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that, John.
Actually, maybe I should say, if I may, I'm sorry. We won't be selling anything, so please, if you do come and you'd like to have supper or something, please bring it with you. We will have trash receptacles, washroom facilities and such, so please bring a dinner with you if you'd like to enjoy a supper with your family.
And chairs and blankets for, like you would go to Ravinia or sit on the lawn at the park. I mean, it's a little bumpy there, but chairs are a good thing. Announced today, this afternoon around noon, I was invited along with the mayor from Des Plaines, the mayor from Mount Prospect hosted the event, and the mayor of Prospect Heights, along with the respected staff, Manager Svandilis, along with Community Developer Director Janik, attended this meeting at the Village Hall in Mount Prospect regarding the issues regarding Heritage Park, Levy 37, the departments, the agencies of the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, Metropolitan Water Reclamation District agencies, and along with the Army Corps of Engineers were there to answer questions. As you've read in the paper, there seemed to be a little bit of feuding back at the last flood in April with the city of Des Plaines versus some actions regarding retaining walls and whatever they did along River Road in Mount Prospect and Prospect Heights. So the directors and the department heads for these agencies were there to answer us questions that we had. The Village of Wheeling has been included in this because I've asked to be included in it. And I think we've all known in the past that it seems like whatever Des Plaines is doing on Prospect and Prospect Heights, they forget about where the water starts, and it starts in our town. And I reminded them of that. And they also seem to forget that this huge basin behind us is benefiting them down there, and it's being done here in our town. So, and they understand that. And they've been very gracious with inviting us and keeping us up to snuff with that. But John and I were there, and there are some issues that they weren't aware of. There's construction time issues that we have concerns about. Where are they at on regarding getting this project done? We've occurred flooding, not only in April, but last Wednesday. It seems to be contributed to maybe some of the issues that haven't been done at that site over here at Heritage Park. So we are working with them. If I'm forgetting anything,
I think that covers it. It was a very positive meeting that allowed the opportunity to highlight some of the problems. Obviously, this is a major construction project that impacts a number of communities, but I think we left there today with a better understanding of what's happening, and I think most important for the Village of Wheeling and the residents and businesses of the Village of Wheeling is to know that there was some very positive reaction to our request to expedite the digging process, because that's what directly impacts our community. The faster this hole can get dug, the faster they can remove the mounds of topsoil, the better our overland flow will be, and the less impact we will have simply from the construction aspect of this, and the faster and the sooner we'll be able to receive the engineering benefit of the levee.
That's good. And speaking of water, Trustee Brady, along with myself, Director Stavros, Manager Svandilas, Finance Director Monishing, the City of Rolling Meadows hosted us. And the City of Rolling Meadows has this stormwater utility program that they started back in the year 2000. So it was more of an informative thing and see how it works for their community. And the finances, the programs, the staff level of how that program works, I think we were impressed. It does work. But you have to do your homework, get a game plan going, and do it the right way the first time. They were basically trying it out, and they had made mistakes because it was new to them, and they kind of gave us the heads up of, you know what, if you're going to do this, you need to make sure this is right and that's right, because it's hard to catch up after you implement a program like this. So I felt that was a good meeting. It was very educational. I don't, Trustee Brady, you want to say anything about that?
Actually, it was extremely informational because they don't have near a quarter of the problems that we do. They have Salt Creek. They go through town. It causes them some trouble. We have actually basically two main arteries. We have the river, we have the Buffalo Creek, and we also have the overland waterway that comes through the southwest part of town. And we find that they get a lot of help with funding because they have a program. They identify the problems as they exist. They prioritize their problems, and they set resolutions of how it's going to be fixed, and they start putting money aside for it. Once that's done, and they go to either the federal or the state with an offer, a request of help, they're much more likely to get it because they're organized. They know what they're doing. The problem's identified. They're ready to fix it, but they just need that last thing, the rest of the money. And I think if we do that, we're going to see we can get a lot more things done. And it's just a matter of time. And we all pay for this. However you want to cut it. Every time it floods, it costs all of us. It costs all of us to send the pumps out. It costs all of us to put the barricades on the streets, close the streets, the police department, the fire department, the pumping. Everything's involved costs us a ton of money. This would be a good way to start. It's our turn to get some help, really, as a village. We're the last one in Cook County where the water comes in, and it's time that we get some help, and I think this is the way to do it.
I appreciate it. And I know you guys have a meeting scheduled probably in the next 10 days or 2 weeks, and we're looking forward to a follow-up and where this is going to go. Again, another reminder, the blood drive is Wednesday, George will be there from 2 to 7 at Village Hall, please. It's a good thing. Help George. I want him to come back and say we had 98 pints, not 48.
Of blood.
All right?
Of blood.
Of blood, of love. Anything else from you, John?
No, sir.
Okay. Approval of the bills for June 13th, 2013 to June 26th, 2013.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Vogel.
Second.
Second by trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes. We do have executive session this evening. I'd like to entertain a motion to recess to discuss pending, probable, and/or imminent litigation.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Brady, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes, we'll go into executive session around 8:15. Good night, everyone, and happy 4th of July.